All right, good morning, AC3 guys. Today's going to be our notes on the evidence of the trial. You guys may be saying, this is not where Mr. Petrus usually gives us the notes, and it's not. I'm currently in the parking lot of a doctor's office right now. My wife has a doctor's appointment to make sure the baby's safe and healthy and all that good stuff, and, well, I'm not allowed in there. So, thank you, COVID. But anyway, might as well make the time worthy. So today we're going to go over the notes as far as the evidence that was found at the crime scene. Now, I looked over the stuff, how everything's going to go. It's basically going to be, today is going to be a short, brief note session. Tomorrow we're going to go over the trial and hopefully the end of it, the results and what happens with them and all that good stuff. If we don't get to do that, well, I take it back. Regardless, whether we do or don't, your test is going to be Monday. All right. So you will have a review guide Friday. Test will be Monday. All right. The more I look at it, I don't want to overwhelm you with the notes. I don't want to overwhelm you. I'm sorry, with the information. So we're going to do the test on Monday. Okay. So evidence found at the scene. If you guys have your notes out. The main thing you need to know as far as the evidence goes is the bloody gloves, okay? The killer was wearing black gloves and there was blood on them, all right? Here's the issue with it. One of the gloves was found right by Nicole's body, all right? So when the cops and the detectives are investigating the body, they see a bloody glove by her. Obviously, they take that glove in for evidence. And that glove has the blood of 3 people on it. Nicole Simpson, Ron Goldman, and O.J. Simpson. His blood DNA is on the glove. Right away, you should say, well, then he's guilty, right? There's blood on there. You would think. The other bloody glove was found outside his house. O.J.'s house, not Nicole's. Okay? So you have one bloody glove right by the crime scene. You have another bloody glove right by his house, right outside of it. And that blood had the markers of all 3 of their DNA on it as well. So, much like the one found at Nicole's house. Now, one of the things we'll get into tomorrow when we talk about the trial, but I'll break it down now, is it seems a little weird that OJ would leave one glove at the crime scene and another glove at his own house. Well, this is where Detective Mark Furman comes in. Detective Mark Furman is the lead detective in charge of this investigation. And what ends up coming out during the trial is he's not the most stand-up detective when it comes to African Americans. Doesn't mean that OJ was framed or that OJ didn't do it. But what it means is they look at some of the parts of the evidence and they determine maybe Mark Furman planted it or maybe he did stuff with it. And what he ends up saying in the trial kind of comes back to bite him. On that same slide where it says hair, there are hair follicles also found on the gloves. OJ, Ron, and Nicole. So there you go. Where it says continued blood-stained socks, blood in the Ford Bronco, and the back gate of OJ's house, as well as carpet cotton fibers on his knit cap and gloves. As far as that slide goes, the only part you need to know for the test is there were cotton fibers found on the bodies of Nicole and Ron, like little pieces, like think of almost like as lint, right? And it turns out the detectives took that cotton, they analyzed it, and it came from a knit hat, like a ski cap or a tassel cap that OJ had. So, once again, brings more evidence back to him. More blood evidence. Next slide. There was blood in Simpson's foyer, right in the front of his house. There are blood droplets. His house. All right. Once again, you're going to see this tomorrow with the trial. The prosecution or the defense says, yeah, there was blood there because Furman planted it there. So, Okay. Next, where it says evidence continue, where it says blood on the steps The only thing about this part that you need to know, toward the bottom, they do a blood analysis they look at Nicole, they look at her wounds as far as the severity of them. And so it says her body was positioned in another way as if she was killed somewhere else, meaning that her body may have been drugged. And they perform what is known as a splatter test. They take this concoction that has the same consistency as blood, and they splatter it the way her blood is splattered to try to determine how she was killed and those sorts of things. If you watch any of those true crime documentaries on Netflix, you see that a lot. The really disturbing thing about all of this is they determined through their blood splatter test that the cut that she had on her throat caused her to lose 1 pint of blood in 5 seconds. A pint of blood. You have, I believe, 8 in your body. She lost 1 pint of it in 5 seconds. To give you an idea of how quick that is. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000. Pint of blood gone. That is how severe, that is how devastating that cut to her neck was. Okay. The next slide down is just an autopsy of the victims. You're not going to need to know any of that for the test, but it just talks about the brutality of it. And when you look at the wounds on Ron especially, it seems like some of his stab wounds were defensive stab wounds. And what that means is Ron was trying to fight back. Whoever the attacker was, he was trying to defend himself. He was trying to fight back on the attacker. And some of his wounds will make people believe, or lead investigators to believe, that he was actually trying to fight back. As devastating as Nicole's death was, and it was awful. One of the wounds in Ron, he was stabbed in his abdomen, and the blade seared it to where blood started leaking out of him. He essentially drowned in his own blood. It was a awful, awful, awful way to go. Okay, next part down where it says evidence. The knife that was used in the killings, in the murders, was a Ross Cutley, and the store that sold it had the receipt, and guess who bought that knife? O.J. Simpson. Okay, so once again, doesn't mean he did it. Doesn't mean he did it. It's just looks a little sketchy if you're O.J. at that point. Okay. All right, tomorrow, like I said, I'm sorry it's a quick lesson, but once again, I'm in the parking lot of a doctor's office here. I'm not allowed in, so I'm sitting here talking to you guys. Hope you guys are well. Hope things are doing good for you guys. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the trial. It may be tomorrow and Friday. We'll see how that goes. And then regardless, Friday you're going to get a study guide. Monday's going to be your OJ test, all right? Guys, keep well, stay safe. Talking to you tomorrow. Bye.